All right, everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about something pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at this idea of never outshining the master.
Oh, yeah.
And this is kind of a thought-provoking concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in today's world where, we're always told to,
Go get them.
be the best that we can be.
Right.
But this idea kind of flies in the face of that.
Totally.
So the source material we're looking at basically boils down to,
Okay.
navigating these power dynamics is really key. Sometimes that means, making your superiors feel comfortably superior, which is kind of an interesting way to put it.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this just right off the bat?
I think it's fascinating, because it really reveals this tension that I think a lot of people feel between ambition and kind of the unspoken rules of how we navigate these social hierarchies, you
Right.
know? On one hand, you have this drive to excel, but then there's this element of making sure that you're not,
Stepping on toes.
threatening those above you
Yeah.
or, making them feel uncomfortable.
All right.
And it really, I think, speaks to a very human need for validation and control, especially for those in a position of power.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you think like, is this about manipulation?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this just about being, socially intelligent?
Right.
Like, is it possible to kind of do this in a way that's authentic?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like finding that balance between, advancing your own interests, but doing so in a way that doesn't
Alienate.
or create enemies.
Yeah.
So instead of, that kind of ruthless climb the ladder and knock people off approach, it's more about this strategic dance
Interesting.
where you're making sure everyone feels good along the way.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's like, everyone kind of benefits in a way.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
you could think of it like a subtle game of chess
Yeah.
where you're making moves to advance your position, but you're doing it in a way that allows your superior to feel like they're still the ones calling the shots, they're guiding your moves, and there can be real benefits to this approach,
Yeah.
You build trust, you foster collaboration, you even create this sense of loyalty.
It's interesting you say that because I'm thinking of, all the times that we see people kind of rise in the ranks and you're like,
Effortlessly,
yeah,
how do they do that? Like,
Yeah.
what's their secret?
right. And maybe this is part of it. Maybe they've mastered this art
Okay.
of subtle influence.
So how would you define, or how would you break that down?
Well, I think about it in terms of like 3 C's,
Okay.
competence, collaboration, and credit.
Okay.
So you demonstrate your competence, you show that you're capable, but you ensure that you're collaborating in a way that highlights your superior strengths. And then you subtly give them credit, even for ideas that maybe originated with you.
That's not about hiding your talents.
Right.
It's just about kind of...
It's about strategic showcasing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. But, obviously there's 2 sides to every coin. So where do you see the potential downsides here?
Well, one danger is that you might end up stifling your own creativity and innovation, If you're constantly downplaying your contributions to avoid making waves, you might miss opportunities to truly shine.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
And it can also,
About
enable a culture of, well, let's say, less than stellar leadership. If people are constantly afraid to challenge the status quo,
Right. And then there's also, the ethical dilemma
Oh, absolutely.
of, where is the line between being,
Right, where does it become manipulative?
skillful and being manipulative?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And you have to be mindful of your intentions and the impact on others.
Yeah. So can you give us like a
Yeah.
concrete example of how this might play out in a real world situation?
Yeah, so let's say you're in a meeting and you have this groundbreaking idea. Instead of presenting it as this revolutionary concept, you might say something like, building on your vision for X, I was thinking.
Okay.
We could enhance it by doing Y.
Okay.
You're still putting your idea forward, but you're doing it in a way that you subtly credits your superior, makes them feel like they're part of the process.
It's almost like saying, hey, remember that awesome idea you had?
Exactly.
Well, I just found a way to make it even more awesome.
Even better. Yeah.
Right. And so it's not about brown nosing or
No, empty flattery.
empty flattery, right?
Right.
No, it's about highlighting their strengths
Right.
genuinely while also showcasing your own in a way that doesn't create that sense of threat.
Yeah. It's like almost every workplace comedy has that character
totally.
who's always brown-nosed and the boss. But this is
It's a
different.
more nuanced approach.
Yeah.
I like that. So, thinking about all of this,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever found yourself in a situation where you've been on the receiving end
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
of this, or maybe you've even done it yourself?
I think we all have. It's such a common dynamic, and sometimes you don't even realize it's happening until you take a step back.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I think being aware of it is really important because it allows you to make conscious choices about how you want to navigate those situations.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, not necessarily. It's just a tool. Like any tool can be used for good or for ill. It depends on the intention behind it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you think about, how we balance ambition.
Yeah.
With the need to kind of navigate these complex social situations.
Right, because in a world that often celebrates, individual achievement, we also have to learn this art of navigating these power dynamics. And finding that balance is key to achieving your goals, fostering those positive relationships, and creating a healthy work environment.
So it's really a skill to cultivate.
Yeah, totally.
I like that. So what's the big takeaway here then?
I think the takeaway is that it's not about suppressing your ambition. It's about understanding that success often involves this blend of talent, strategy, and, a bit of social intelligence.
That social intelligence piece is really key.
Right. It's about playing the long game, building relationships, and understanding that sometimes the path to the top isn't always a straight line.
I like that. A lot of food for thought.
Yeah.
As always. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Thanks for having me.